Deep work. If there was one book I could recommend to improve your professional life so that you do better and more meaningful work, it would be this book by Cal Newport. In this video, I'm going to share my 5 favorite ideas from the book, and it was hard to cull them down to those 5. Those include things like what's the difference between deep work and shallow work, and how do you fit your best work into the day no matter how busy you are, and how do you connect your big picture goals, the things that are most important professionally, with the things you do today. So we're going to cover those ideas and more, and we're getting started right now. I want to start off the video talking about what deep work is and comparing it to something that Cal Newport, the author, calls shallow work. So deep work is really undistracted, deep concentration. So they're usually in a block of time, so maybe an hour or 2 or more, and you're not getting distracted, you're not going from one thing to another, you're not switching tasks, you're just focused, having a deep focus on one thing. And typically the characteristic of deep work is that you create new value professionally. That can mean a lot of different things depending on what you do, but you're making breakthroughs, you're getting ideas, you're connecting different ideas. In my world of real estate investing, this would often mean, when I was really making offers on a lot of properties, evaluating a deal that might make a lot of money, or in some cases making a connection. This was not actually in the book, but I found that negotiating, if you're in a negotiating or a sales job, sitting face to face with a person who can make a decision and making a connection, building a relationship, getting to know them getting to know you, wasn't technically what deep work Cal had in mind for the deep work, but I found that is a very valuable skill. So if you can just follow the compass of value, where do you add the most value? And often it's learning new skills, creating new value, making connections. It's increasingly rare that people do deep work today. It's getting increasingly valuable because this is a knowledge economy. Using your brain, putting ideas together, making connections with people, that is how we add value. And this is contrasted with shallow work, which, by the way, we all have to do shallow work sometimes. This is not degrading it and saying you never do shallow work, but it's not as mentally demanding. It's typically things like logistics, email, messaging, sometimes meetings, other kinds of scheduling things. They typically add less value. They just have to be done. But there's some stats that are really staggering in the book that Cal shared, that over 60% of time, based on a couple studies he referenced, of workers are doing shallow work. They're doing things that don't really add as much value. And we feel like we're busy doing email and messaging and meetings all day long, but are we really doing deep work? Are we really adding value? That's the question. So some of the next ideas I'm going to share go deeper on this deep work idea to try to figure out how can we do more of it and how can we build it into our day no matter what our schedule looks like. The second big idea is called deep work philosophies. And it's all about integrating this idea of deep work into your life, no matter what your schedule looks like, finding a way that works for you. So let me give you a few ideas and just think about which one of these maybe makes more sense for you. Monastic basically means being like a monk, going away from society, going away from the rest of the busy work, the shallow work, and just focusing on your task, your deep work. This works particularly well for people who have a very clear job description where some kind of creative work is the 99% of the value of their job. This often happens with authors who can really just kind of quarantine themselves basically and just produce books. It could also work with some scientists, maybe some kind of very technical job where it's the work, it's the research, it's the creation that you're doing that makes the most sense. It doesn't mean it's easy to do that. You have to be a little iconoclastic to be able to separate yourself and pull yourself out. But if you can do that, you can really get a lot of deep work done. You can produce a lot. These authors and scientists who do that make some of the biggest breakthroughs by completely detaching themselves. Now, is that possible for everybody? Is that realistic for everybody? Probably not. So let's look at one of the other types of philosophies you could use. You could use something called bimodal. Bimodal, the example that Cal Newport gave in the book was Carl Jung, who's an author I really like, and a thinker, psychologist in the 20th century. But he had a practice. He was a psychologist, so he had patients he had to see. He was really busy, and that was his kind of a busy part of his life. But he also was writing and thinking and trying to change the ideas in the scientific community around psychology. And so he would go take these retreats where he would get away from his really busy work, and maybe he would take a long weekend, maybe he'd take a week, and he would go on these retreats, and he'd have this kind of on and off. And when he was away, he was away. It was almost like the monastic type deep work. Back then there was obviously no cell phones at that point, but today you would just leave the cell phone off, you would detach yourself. Maybe you can go camping, maybe you can go to a little cabin in the woods somewhere. But the idea is that you want to do your best thinking, go away, get away. That's the bimodal idea. Another idea is rhythmic. This is more consistent. Maybe the bimodal you do here and there once a month, whenever you can, you schedule those. Rhythmic, the example in the book was a PhD student who was a new father as well. And really most of his day from studying, from helping with the family, what didn't work. So every morning, I think at 5 a.m. or 4:30 a.m. or something, he would get up and he would just do an hour of work every single day. So 5 to 6 a.m., that was his deep work time. And he got a rhythm of doing that. And because he got that rhythm, it stuck. It was consistent. He made progress, little bit at a time. Another example they gave was Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian. And he would, I don't know how to spell Seinfeld. He would say, just do a joke a day. So instead of measuring the time he would do it, he would advise other comedians, hey, just make sure you write one joke a day and put it on the calendar, put a big X through the day on the calendar when you make a joke, and then try to chain together as many of those days as you can. So if you think about your own work, could you get in a rhythm of making sure to carve out some time every day and do your deep work? Another idea is journalistic. So think about journalists. They have a new story and they have to go right now. They have to jump on it. It doesn't matter where they are. They can go carve time out and work on it. So some of us have to do that. You have to just look at your day, look at your week and say, okay, there's 2 hours I can do some deep work from 1 to 3 today. Or there's 1 hour I can do it in the evening. Or there's 2 hours in the morning, and it's a little bit less consistent, but maybe it's more realistic. But it takes some effort. And this is not for the beginner, Cal Newport says. If you're just beginning, maybe a rhythmic model, just really get in the habit of doing it is better. Journalistic, if you're self-disciplined, if you really know your work and you can get into a ritual, which I'm going to talk about here in a moment, then you might be able to do journalistic work. There's people who do this pretty well, but you just need to know yourself, and is that going to work for you? Finally, there's this idea of grand gestures. So when you really need to do some deep work, people like Bill Gates, when he was at Microsoft, would take these think weeks. He would go away for a week to really think deeply about something that was important for the business. J.K. Rowling, when she wrote Harry Potter in the Harry Potter series, would lock herself in a hotel, basically. I think it's now a tourist attraction, the place she went to and wrote in her hotel. And so she would just get away from a normal life in a grand gesture because she had to do that deep work in order to finish this book. Sometimes you might need to do that as well. If you have a big paper, if you have a big project, you might need to just detach yourself, go away for a weekend, for a week, and just get it done. So all of these, you can mix and match, but the idea is here, how can you fit this into your life? Think about that, which one of these make the most sense for you? And now I'm going to go to some other ideas that'll help you apply it even further. This third idea is about ritualizing your deep work. So turning the practice of getting into your deep work and doing your deep work into a ritual. And I'm going to give you some ideas, but I want to start with a quote from David Brooks that says, think like an artist, work like an accountant. And I think there's a misconception that the best thinkers, the people who get the most done, who have the biggest breakthrough ideas, that they just strike when the iron is hot. This inspiration hits them and then they do it. When in fact, if you looked at the schedules of some of these people, they are very boring. They're ritualistic. They're the same thing all the time. And because of that, they have these constraints on their life and their schedule. The big ideas and the really productive work happen between those constraints. And so how can you do that? Number one, think about where you're going to do deep work and try to have a place you always do that. You can think about it as your sacred space, the place where you do your best work, your thinking. If you're in college or something, go to find a corner of the library. If you have a home office, maybe you can find a corner of the basement somewhere or the attic or somewhere where you're undistracted. People aren't bothering you. When you get to that space though, set an alarm. Don't give yourself an unlimited amount of time. The way our tendency of our brain works is we fit whatever time we give ourselves, we fit that task into it. So set a start and an end time and just get as much work done as you can in that time. And have some rules for yourself. For example, for me, when I'm doing videos like this is part of my deep work. I put the phone in the closet or in a drawer. I don't just turn it off, I put it away. But definitely have no distractions, no notifications. If you can, no access to the internet, that kind of thing, you're gonna go out, you're gonna get distracted, you're gonna go down all sorts of different paths. Focus is the key word here. If you're in an office environment or somewhere where people can come in at home, put a sign on the door. Let people know, hey, this is my time when I'm doing deep work. I really need to focus here. And you have to have that conversation with them. Set a goal for yourself. Maybe if you're a writer, maybe the number of words, but if nothing else, just give yourself a goal to do a certain amount of time in deep work and just get as much done as you can in that time. And then have some supports for yourself. Maybe before you do it, every time you do some stretching, you do some movement. I like to go out and walk between kind of deep work sessions to get my brain moving. There's a direct connection between your body moving and how well your brain works, the oxygen flowing and getting the blood moving. Maybe meditation is your thing. Maybe you just need some food and water. So your body, you got to be a good animal first before you can be a good thinker. So take care of those things, but make them part of your ritual perhaps, and then find something that works for you and do it every time. Keep tweaking it. Ritualize your deep work. So the fourth idea is called time blocking, and it's building on the last idea of ritualizing your deep work. And this is probably an idea if you've read any book on time management, getting things done. It's a really popular idea, and the reason is because it's a very good idea. And it basically means to schedule everything. And I know for those of you who don't schedule everything, you're gonna hear that and you say, wow, that's really rigid, that's too much. But remember that idea I said about the people who get the best work done, the most work done, they have rituals. They might be wildly creative. They might have some of the biggest, boldest ideas in the world, but their schedule is pretty boring. It's the accountant. It's just they're adding up columns and putting things in a schedule, but then in between those things, they're brilliant. There's a lot of great things happen. So the recommendation, at least till you find a good schedule that works for you, schedule everything. Put them into 30 to 60 minute blocks. So you look at your day, preferably what I do is the day before. It's like either right at the end of the last work day or the evening right before I go to bed. Put your day in 30 to 60 minute blocks based on activity, and preferably find the maybe 2 to 4 hours that you can do your deepest work. Put those in your best times, the times when you have the most energy. For me, that's in the morning. You know, some of you might be like 6 to 8 a.m. is your best time. 9 to 12 is kind of my time. Sometimes 1 o'clock when I get my 3 to 4 hours of deep work in, like making videos like this, reading, thinking, analyzing things. So those are, just find your deep work times when you can fit into your schedule, and make sure you schedule those. Also consider having a shallow work budget. So it's so easy. Remember that stat I shared from the book? Most people spend 60% or more of their time on email, messaging, things that are not really producing the value that you need in your job. So consider creating a budget. And if you have to, this might be a work issue. Maybe you have a conversation with your supervisor, with your boss, and show them, like say, I've tracked my work over the last 2 weeks, and here's what it looks like. I'm doing this much email, and I'm doing this thing that you hired me to do. I'm only doing 20% of my time. Is it okay with you if I skip these 2 meetings so that I can get more of my work done? When you put it that way and you show that the thing you hired me to do is that, and I'm not having time to do that, that can, managers are a big part of the issue with a lot of people not doing enough deep work. But you could try to push that issue. And if you're an entrepreneur and you can have control over your schedule, you can do that yourself. And of course, you want to have flexibility in all of this. Being rigid is not the idea. The idea is being thoughtful and deliberate, because the opposite of this, if you're not time blocking, if you're letting your day just happen randomly, you are going to be reactive. Other people are going to put things on your desk, and all of a sudden that's going to be the most important thing. Whereas if you plan it ahead of time, you block your schedule, you can say, no, actually I have an appointment, I already have something committed during that time. How about next week? Or how about I can't, can we just have a phone conversation for 5 minutes, later on in the day? So it puts you in control of your schedule, lets you be more thoughtful, lets you be more deliberate, and that's a big part of getting more deep work done. The fifth big idea from the book is something called lead goals versus lag goals. This is an idea from the book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution, summarized as 4DX. It's probably another book I need to do a summary of. It's a really good book, a lot of great ideas. But this idea is relevant to deep work because it's about how do you prioritize and build in the most important things into your day-to-day life. And so there's this idea that things that we want in our work, I'm going to give you some real estate examples because that's kind of a lot of you are investing in real estate, or maybe you have other goals that are similar. We have these results we want. You could think of those as lag goals. They lag behind the day-to-day activities we do. So they might be, you want to buy a property. It might be professionally, you have some other project that you're working on. So it's like a work project that would be really impactful for you and your job. There's so many different things, but you think about that result. What is the result that you want? It's kind of the main orientation of your job, of your professional life. That's the lag goal. But there's always these activities, these things you do that are the most productive part of getting to that lag goal. So the process is that you start with the simple, wildly important goals. These might be those lag goals, and try to break that down into something in the next 6 months to a year that you could actually focus on. Try to keep those as simple as possible, 1 or 2 maybe professionally. And then think about what are the lead measures? What are the things you can do on a week-to-week basis? And I would argue, and Cal Newport argued in the book, that deep work is probably one of the best ways you can measure for many of our jobs. That the more deep work you do, the more likely you'll accomplish your goal. And if you broaden that idea of deep work, remember I said for sales and negotiation type jobs, maybe that deep work is getting face-to-face and making offers to people. That was the case for me when I'm really trying to buy a lot of properties. Every week I would measure the number of offers that I made on properties, because I knew that I wasn't going to get every offer. But if I made 10 offers during the week or 5 offers during the week, there's a good chance that one of those is going to turn into a real deal, a property that I can buy and flip, property that I can buy and rent. And so that was my lead measure. Every week, how many offers did I make? And I could even break that down even more. How many appointments did I have? How many face-to-face appointments did I have? How much time doing deep work did I do with my marketing so that I can actually get leads coming in? So you can see how that could work. You could probably break it down into 2 or 3 activities that are your most important activities, or you could just summarize it as deep work. And what I do is you have a scoreboard. And so this is what the 4 disciplines of execution people recommend. And it can be really simple. I like to keep mine simple. I have a planner here, and every day or every week, I just kind of keep up with things there in my planner. And I have little scoreboards, little ways of checking things off the list. And one of those every single day that I check off is how much deep work did I do. I shoot for about 20 hours of deep work per week, 5 hours or 4 hours per day on a work day, sometimes spread out on a little bit on the weekend. And if I do that, if I hit 20 hours and I'm making videos, I'm writing things these days, so that's a lot of my deep work. But even if I were trying to buy properties, that deep work would turn into a lot of results. So my scoreboard is how much of that did I do, whether that's offers, appointments, deep work, and then have accountability. And my accountability is really simple. I just have a weekly planning session, usually on either Friday afternoon or sometime during the weekend. I spend 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and I look back over the week. How did I do? What were my goals? How did I connect them to what I did that week? And if you measure these lead measures consistently with a scoreboard, and you put those together week by week, day by day, they will turn into some pretty amazing results on the project level and on the goal level. Okay, I have a bonus idea. I told you I had so many ideas from this book that I had to throw in a 6th one. Couldn't leave this one out, but this idea is Shutdown, Complete, and it means to train your recovery. So we're focusing so much on deep work, but the harder you work and the more actual deep work you get, the more recovery you're gonna need. And you're gonna need to train that just as much. And I learned this really well when I played football and kind of elite athletics, that you could train hard for 2 or 3 hours, but that was about it. After that amount of time, you had to rest, and you had to work just as hard on your rest and recovery as you did on the work you did itself. So Cal Newport has a really idea I love from his work that I'm still working on. I'm not perfect on this one, where he goes through a process at the end of a workday, and he tries to end his workday about 5:30. He's a professor, also a writer, and so every day he reviews his incomplete tasks. So like, let's say at 5:30, 5:15, he's getting ready to leave. He'll look at all his tasks that didn't get done, because nobody gets all their tasks done. There's always incomplete things. He reviews those. He captures them in a system that you trust, and this could be a digital system. I use things like Google Calendar. I use Asana, which is kind of a board system that I can share work with. I, of course, use my planner that I shared earlier. I capture a lot of things physically, just off digital there. That works for me. And then he actually says physically or audibly, shut down complete. He has closure. Remember that ritual. I'm going to shut this down. I'm going to leave my work there. And then I'm going to focus on restoring and relaxing my mind and my body. I'm going to focus on things like, for him, family, maybe it's your friends, maybe exercise, leisure activities that are healthy food, eating some good food. All of these things matter. And there's this balance in life. It's not only fun and enjoyable, but it's necessary if you want to do your best work. So this is the final idea, and it's a good balance to the rest of the deep work ideas: to shut down complete, train your recovery just as hard as you do training your work. I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Which of those ideas from deep work was the most helpful to you? And if you've read that book, let me know what you think. I'd love to continue the conversation in the comments section. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button to help us spread the word on YouTube. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss anything. I have new videos that come out every Friday morning. If you like this book review, I think you'll also like my next video, which is a book review of Never Split the Difference. It's all about negotiating and how to apply that to your business, to your life, and I give you my 5 favorite ideas from that book. I think you'll enjoy it, and the link to that video is in the video description below. You've been watching Coach Carson TV. My name is Chad Carson. You can call me Coach, and this is a channel all about investing in real estate, achieving financial independence, and doing more of what matters. See you next time.